Hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel. The following review is dedicated to Reggie Fils-Aime. Reggie Fils-Aime has been the president of Nintendo of America for the last 15 years, and he will be stepping down on April 15th. As such, this is the perfect time for me to review Reggie's favorite Zelda game of all time. Also, a perfect time to do it on St. Patrick's Day weekend, as Link wears green! I truly wanted to do something special for this occasion. The footage in this video was taken with the Elgato game capture, and the game itself is copyrighted by Nintendo. With that in mind, please enjoy my review for The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. A Link to the Past was released for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1991. After the groundbreaking success of the first Legend of Zelda game on the NES, Nintendo released a sequel soon afterwards. The sequel was titled Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Zelda 2 received lukewarm reception due to its radical departure in style and gameplay compared to the first title, and is often seen as the black sheep of the Zelda franchise to this day. With the third installment of the beloved series, Nintendo went back to the formula that made the first game so successful, with its top-down, overhead gameplay that focused on hack-and-slash combat, world exploration and traversal, and, of course, dungeon crawling. The only difference was that everything was nearly infinitely superior and refined. This resulted in a game that is simply one of the greatest video games of all time. A Link to the Past is the game that really codified the Zelda formula, as we have become accustomed to calling it. It introduced so many series staples such as the Master Sword, the hookshot, the dual world concept, and so much more. It really set the stage for all the Zelda games that would follow it for years to come. Premise: A Link to the Past is set in the mythical kingdom of Hyrule, which is surrounded on all sides by tall mountains, lush forests, lakes, and rivers. The kingdom of Hyrule was created by the mythical gods who descended from the heavens. Before departing, they left behind a golden relic, the Triforce. This magic relic is said to grant the user whatever they desire. Because of this, it was hidden in the Golden Land. Many souls fought to claim this Triforce for themselves, and there was much battle and bloodshed. One day, a thief by the name of Ganondorf Dragmire entered the Golden Land and successfully laid his hand on the Triforce. In doing so, he wished for the Golden Land to become the Dark World, a land of monsters, seeking to then dominate all of Hyrule. He was ultimately fought off by the remaining knights of Hyrule and sealed away by the 7 wise men. Many years later, there's a plague that spreads throughout the land of Hyrule, and none are able to cure it. It is at this point that a mysterious wizard by the name of Aghanim appears and uses his powers to stop the spread of the plague. This grants the wizard the approval of the king. However, this turns out to be a ruse, as the wizard is really a servant of Ganon, who uses his powers to kill the king and take control of Hyrule Castle, including possessing all the soldiers in Hyrule. Even worse than that, Aghanim finds the maidens who are descendants from the 7 wise men and banishes them to the Dark World. The time for Princess Zelda to join them is soon at hand. On a dark and stormy night, Link's uncle sets out of the house in order to rescue the king's daughter, Princess Zelda. He tells Link to stay put, as he does not want his nephew involved in any of this fighting. Link, being the hothead lad that he is, declines his uncle's warning and sets out of the house towards Hyrule Castle. After finding his uncle mortally wounded, he takes his uncle's sword and goes deep into the castle in order to save Princess Zelda. After the two of them escape from the castle, Link and the princess enter the sanctuary, and the priest tells Link that he is descended from the Knights of Hyrule, and is the only one able to claim the Master Sword. Link leaves Zelda with the old man in the sanctuary in order to retrieve the 3 pendants of virtue, in order to retrieve the Master Sword, the one weapon that can stop Aghanim. Link sets out on his quest and retrieves the 3 pendants, surviving the perilous traps and defeating the monsters within. He then claims for himself the Blade of Evil's Bane, the Master Sword. Unfortunately, Link realizes that it is far too late. Aghanim's soldiers have kidnapped Zelda and taken her to Hyrule Castle. Link goes to the castle and faces off against this evil wizard, only to find out that it was all another trick. Link is hurled into the Dark World, a hellish mirror world image of the Kingdom of Hyrule. This is where Link's quest truly begins, as he must rescue the Seven Maidens and ultimately defeat the Prince of Darkness, Ganon, and restore peace to the land. A Link to the Past was the first Zelda game to really establish the lore of Hyrule and give the series its own backstory and mythology, including the story of Hyrule's creation in the War for the Triforce. This is something that would later be expanded upon in future titles, and it all started with this game. Presentation. A Link to the Past is designed in a similar manner to the first Zelda game on the NES, with its overhead perspective. However, this Zelda game features far more detail than the NES could ever muster. The art style is so colorful and vibrant, almost feeling evocative of a storybook. The character designs are all substantial and charming. The enemy designs, particularly for the bosses, look so wicked awesome. The magic of Zelda games is that they have often had simple, colorful art styles, but lots of hidden depth. A Link to the Past contains tons of depth with its visuals. For example, there is a definitive sense of height, particularly when you're climbing up a mountain when you can see the cloud cover, making you feel like you really are in a big mountain range. This sense of height also plays out in the designs of some of the dungeons themselves, such as the Tower of Hera, where you can fall through the floors in the dungeon and end up in the previous room. The sunlit canopy in the Lost Woods adds to the sense of tranquility and of eras long gone by as you search for the long-lost Master Sword. The Dark World is another story entirely. The hellish mirror image of Hyrule truly looks otherworldly. Everything is dark and sinister. The colors are far more saturated, and the enemies are far stronger and scarier in their designs. Seeing the village of outcasts, the Dark Worms, and the Dark World version of Death Mountain for the first time are truly memorable moments, as is the incredibly well-designed Aztec-inspired pyramid, which is the Dark World version of Hyrule Castle. The world itself truly does feel alive, and the visuals have aged incredibly well. I'd even argue that they have held up better than some of the more recent Zelda titles, and even other SNES titles that try to be more realistic. The game is simply stunning. The soundtrack in this game is amazing. The classic Zelda theme from the first game makes a grand reappearance as you explore the Light World, while the Dark World theme has its own utterly unforgettable music track that remains an absolute fan favorite to this day among Zelda soundtracks. This is also the first Zelda game to introduce the Kakariko Village theme, Zelda's Lullaby, and the song that plays when you pull the Master Sword. This just further cements the legacy of this game. Even with a game that is 27 years old, I still never get tired to listening to all of these classic iconic themes. They truly do offer a grand, sweeping musical journey to accompany your adventure. The sound effects are also perfectly matched to the events of the game. Gameplay! A Link to the Past controls extremely well. Link can move in 8 directions this time around with the Super Nintendo controller, rather than the 4 directions he was able to move on the NES game. Your sword is always equipped with the B button, while you use your secondary items with the Y button. The A button is used for lifting pots, running, and talking to the denizens of Hyrule and the Dark World. Link can even dash in this game after getting the Pegasus boots. The gameplay in A Link to the Past is simply refined and flawless. Gameplay consists of traversing the lands of Hyrule and the Dark World and switching back and forth between the two worlds. This is a mechanic that is used extensively in this game. It's a mechanic that any lesser game developer could have easily screwed up and caused to be nothing more than a major nuisance. However, the devs at Nintendo managed this mechanic brilliantly, and it really allows you to appreciate the differences between the light and dark worlds. The world map itself offers a mix of exploration and linear progression. This means that much of the world is readily explorable right off the bat, whereas other locations can only be traveled to once you have obtained a certain item or beaten a certain dungeon. For example, you can only go south of the river near the Pyramid of Power after obtaining the hammer from the Palace of Darkness. Funnily, this never feels too constricting, as it offers a sense of accomplishment and progression once you're able to move to the other parts of the world map without being impeded. The game featured lots of variety in landscapes, including Hyrule Castle, villages, mountains, forests, deserts, lakes and rivers, swamps, graveyards, and many, many palaces. The worlds also feature many, many monsters to fight and defeat. These are all of varying shapes and sizes. You have possessed soldiers, skeleton knights, one-eyed giants, octoroks, moblins, riverzora, poes, rizrobes, beamos, gibdals, wowmasters, lionels, and more. As you get further into the game and become much stronger, some of the enemies that gave you lots of trouble early on fall easily to you. This makes you feel really accomplished and powerful, particularly when you look at how far you have come throughout your adventure. The main bread and butter of A Link to the Past is, of course, the dungeons themselves. These dungeons are so well designed and expertly crafted. They provide a mix of combat and puzzle solving, and they all contain a special item inside that is needed to progress through the game. Some of these items include the bow, hookshot, hammer, titan mitts, moon pearl, magic canes, and armor and shield upgrades. The items you will find yourself using the most throughout this game are the sword, shield, bow, hookshot, boomerang, and bombs. The other items will still have plenty of use, and you can even find some optional upgrades in the overworld. These dungeons are multi-layered, intricate, and most importantly, lots of fun. Many of the dungeons have several floors. You will find yourself looking for secret cracks in the wall, pushing switches to open doors, and hitting colored orbs to manipulate parts of the dungeon's floor geography. You will encounter several enemies in these dungeons, and each one has something new and challenging to overcome. They get progressively more difficult as you venture through them. The Light World dungeons provide an introduction to the mechanics of these labyrinthine challenges, while the Dark World's dungeons just crank things up to 11 from the start. Though the dungeons are never so hard that you will want to tear out your own hair. The only dungeon I didn't like in this game is the Ice Palace. This is because it was really easy to fall in this dungeon to the slippery floors, and I didn't like the icemen that sneak out at you, and the puzzle to get to the boss was just really frustrating. My favorite dungeons in this game are the Tower of Hera, as it provides a sense of height and depth as you climb up the massive structure, the Palace of Darkness with its creepy design and massive scale compared to previous dungeons in the game, as well as the Misery Mire with its maze-like challenges and warp points. These dungeons are all, like I said, near perfectly paced. None of them are too short, so you get plenty of puzzles and gameplay to partake in, but they also don't drag on too long either, providing a perfect balance. At the end of each dungeon, Link faces off against a boss monster. These are all wonders to behold, as they all make you feel minuscule by comparison. These fights include the likes of moving statues, sandworms, evil wizards, masked dinosaur monsters, lots and lots of eyeballs. I seriously wonder if Miyamoto has an eyeball fetish after playing this game, honestly. But I won't ask. Each one of these boss challenges has you think fast and kill it before it kills you. The strategy varies with each fight, as some will have you reflecting their magic back on them, while others will involve you putting out their eyeballs in order to go in for the kill. It is always a good idea to have fairies or potions in your inventory, so as to not fall in battle and have to start all the way back at the beginning of the dungeon. My favorite bosses in this game include the Helmasaur King, as you have to break off its mask with your hammer before killing it, Blind the Thief, as his heads float around after you cut them off, and the boss of Turtle Rock, as you need to use both your ice and fire rods. I must make special mention of the last boss, Ganon, which is an awesome final battle that set the stage for future Zelda games' Ganon fights. He throws his trident at you, shoots fire bats, and even disappears. To put it simply, the gameplay in A Link to the Past is absolute perfection. It refined and polished everything that made the first Zelda game such a groundbreaking title, and it introduced so many great concepts that continue to be used today. Replay value. A Link to the Past contains so many hidden secrets and treasures. There are so many reasons to replay this game. So many hidden caves that often contain rupees. On the rare occasion you might stumble upon a piece of heart, gathering 4 of which increases your life meter. While later Zelda games often have pieces of heart to include more puzzle solving, in this game they're well-kept secrets. Finding one is almost like finding a diamond in the rough, or an Easter egg as you search around in places you had not considered. There are also 4 bottles you can collect. A few of these you collect naturally on your journey, but a few you will also have to go out of your way to find. These are very useful for storing potions and fairies, and a fairy will bring you back to life when you fall, which is especially helpful in the midst of an epic boss battle. The game also has optional items that are very handy for the challenges ahead. These include the Cane of Birna, is that how you say it? And the Cloak of Invincibility. My favorite of these is the Cane of Birna, as it allows Link to become invincible, while also creating a magical force field that damages enemies. There is even a way to increase your magic meter by 50%. Wow! Furthermore, you can power up the Master Sword at the Dwarven Swordsmiths, and even upgrade your boomerang at the Waterfall of Wishing. You can also increase your bow and bomb carrying capacity. There are also some fun mini-games to partake in, such as the ones where you gamble to open a chest and see what's inside. It is also just such a joy to explore the world itself and to replay this game from start to finish for the pure fun of doing so. I have replayed this game so many times in my life since I first played it. My love for it has only grown over the years. The more you replay this game, the more you catch things you didn't before. The more you appreciate all of the little details and secrets and the designs of the dungeons and the monsters. You also find new and quicker ways to beat the dungeons and bosses every time, making you feel more and more like you are mastering the game better each time. The game even features a secret room that you can find if you are vigilant enough to do so. The verdict. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is an absolute classic if ever there was one. There's no question whatsoever that this is one of the best games ever created. It stands the test of time, and it remains an absolute blast to play to this day. This is one of those rare games that can be played over and over again, and it never gets old or boring. While Zelda 1 began this incredible series on the NES, it was really this game, A Link to the Past, that made Zelda the legend that it is today. It set the stage for games like Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess. This game even had a sequel 20 years later on the 3DS in the form of The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, which is a masterpiece in its own right. If you have never played this game before, what's wrong with you? I strongly urge you to buy and play this game one way or another. If you have played this game but haven't replayed it in a while, it is more than worth buying and playing again. The game looks beautiful, the music is grand, the gameplay and pacing are pitch perfect, and I am thrilled to award this game with the highest possible score of 100 out of 100. This game deserves all the praise it gets. It's an absolute classic. The last word. This review was made in honor of Reggie Fils-Aime. I can't tell you how hard it is to see him go after being the face of Nintendo in North America for so long. He means so much to us Nintendo fans, and there was very little I can do to truly express my gratitude. I wanted to put together this review in order to do so, as I know this game is Reggie's all-time favorite, and one of my all-time favorites as well. I only hope I did it, and Reggie, some justice. I just want to end this review by saying thank you, Reggie. You kicked lots of you-know-what, and you took more than just our names, you took our hearts as well. I hope you all enjoyed watching this review as much as I enjoyed making it. I will see you all later, and have a happy St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Welcome! Punch!
Thank you for watching. Subscribe.